Our next speaker is an alchemist, writer, and artist from New York, occasionally visiting Mexico, and now visiting Prague. Visiting Brno. I'm so sorry. Paris. I will be expelled. Visiting Brno, Czech Republic, to talk about the Alembic of the living page. Please welcome David Seater.
Yes, we're going to see if we can do something impossible, which is my usual way of things, by doing too much in too little time. Like a house that's bigger on the inside than on the outside. Okay, so today I'm going to speak with you about the history of alchemy a bit, and a sensibility towards the living book is what I would call it, which, as you hopefully know, or you will find out, the alchemists made very beautiful books, which contained in their emblemata encoded recipes. And the sense, as I'll expose, is that they, I would argue, allow the materials they work with, the metals, the acetates, the salts, to explore their own imaginary through the vessel of the page and the flask. Okay. Let's see. Here you have a nice selfie, which I made actually at the laboratory discovered in Prague, associated with Rudolf, the great Rudolf, which they found, I think, just in 2002, but it was from the 1600s. A complete laboratory under the house of Tadeusz Hajcek, mispronounced, which contained 3 tunnels, one to the center of the city, one to a tower in the castle, and one out of the city under the river for escape. And then here, hard to see, but there's there was rooms for making glass, the drying of herbs. Here you have the athanor, which is the alchemical oven for distillation. Here's the glassmaking, I believe. There was a marble carving of a man on a horse, and they discovered that this opened up, and inside was an iron box. And in the box were the alchemist's recipes. So this is good. Here I put also my old landlord symbol in the flask as a homunculus. I'm gonna use this slideshow in a very crazy way, so maybe I won't read most of the things, or we'll see what happens. But there's a great alchemical axiom: liber librum aperit. One book opens another. This is an alchemical blessing, or perhaps a lament. Here you have Maria Prophetessa, who she says this very famous sentence: "You do not make the corporeal incorporeal, and the incorporeal corporeal, and the two are not made one. Nothing when awaits will be achieved." Now I'm going to give you a brief digression because I wanted to include some crazy legends, which is my practice. I'm working on this idea of what I call to grow one's 1,000 pockets. You would have, so this is one way I'm proposing here of meeting the world by collecting its legends and its labyrinths. So there's a story about the first inhabited flight, which was in September 14, I think, 1783, a hot air balloon from Versailles, and it had 3 notable inhabitants in its basket. It was only a duck, a rooster, and a sheep. And this sheep's name was Monteciel, climbed to the sky. And I will argue that each of these can be made to be seen to resonate with the tria prima of the alchemists, which is a sense, in part from Paracelsus, who we'll talk about, that the life can be divided into 3 principles: the sulfur, salt, and mercury, which we can expose. And so in your basket, we have the sheep, which was thought to be the closest approximation to the human physiology, which we would call the salt, perhaps, the body. The rooster, because it was a bird that doesn't fly to high heights, and so they wanted to see the effects. And lastly, the duck, perhaps our mercury, was a control. This is very good. Okay, so also I make books and am striving to, in the alchemical tradition, I hope, so magical stories with emblemata and etchings, and I'm about half the year down in Mexico and Oaxaca. So we'll jump around and do some crazy things. I have 3 more legends about stones, but I might regress to this. Here we have our good Paracelsus. It could be noted, I discovered this recently, he was born in Egg and died in Salt. So he was born in the village of Egg, and then he died in Salzburg, the Salt Castle. And this is excellent. You'll notice also this nice framing, the ovum, which is, okay, so this is another of the principles. Here, we'll jump through stories and we'll elucidate the principles as we go. So one of the principal ideas is of the philosophical egg of the alchemist. So this is in part the glass vessel, whether you're alembic or you're retort, but I would propose also the vessel of the page itself, the blank of the page, in which one deposits the materia that one is to metamorphose, and in doing so, in the attendance of what I would call your philosophical fire of your attention, this thing is seen to evolve, and that one's life would also evolve in tangent. So the living mirror. Okay, yes, here is a great well. So the Tria Prima, again, you have water, fire, and then joined, they make a salt, acid and base. Sulfur and mercury, 2 fundamental principles. The sulfur is the fire of an identity. In a plant, it was thought to be evidenced in the essential oil. Oils burn. Sulfur, gunpowder, which gives a very beautiful blue fire, in fact. Worth seeing. And that this sulfur and mercury were the well from which the metals emerge. And each is associated with a planet and a deity, as all good things should be. Jabir, it's an early Arabic alchemist, very important, associated with their philosophy in mercury and sulfur, discovered many acids. It was said that he distilled hair, often, and blood, so you make of that what you will. There's a claim also that the word gibberish comes from his writings, Jabir, which was because he encoded them, and they were thought to be quite confusing. Okay, well, this has some images from my work. I'll go very quickly, but you get some idea. This is one of my books, which I have here. I'll show them. I have some for sale if you're interested in those matters. So these are artist books, and this project has to do with Chinese alchemy, but it's a magical story for the kid and the old alchemist in one, following from the Chinese sense of the cinnabar child. So when you put sulfur and mercury together, it forms cinnabar. This is a mineral, it's a salt. And the sense was also that each of these principles could be made elixiral and is poisonous, as our good pharmacon, or the iosis, was a Greek term for it as well. We'll keep jumping around. I'll tell you about this book later if you want. And then this is the Taoist conception of the interior of the body as a landscape full of beautiful enumeration. So here, for example, you have our heart, that your heart was an island with fires and waters running around it, and there was a stone child which strings together the Big Dipper, which is a very important constellation for them. And what else do you need to know? Here you have the belly oven. So they said that there were 3 cinnabar fields in the body, one in the stomach, one in the heart, one in the head, and that each of these also has a guardian or a spiritual obstacle, as I understand it, who are called the 3 worms instead of 3 corpses. So here you have our good 3 worms. As you can see, very wormish. This one, I think, is the bureaucrat of the head. This one, you'll have to interpret for me, but I believe this one is of the stomach, and I think this jade line is of the heart. And you'll notice each of them also is carrying a scroll, which is a teaching. There are some legends of catching the world serpent with an ox head in Norse mythology, so I think of this. Okay, and yes, the Umbozu, this is something from the story. I'll explicate that later. I also am studying practical alchemy. As one undergoes one's, you grow your feathers one at a time, Ibn Arabi, he claimed, the great mystic, that man in the garden had feathers. So how to get them back? I've been apprenticing in part, or studying with a great alchemist in the States, Robert Bartlett. So here you have the salts, of rosemary, which are deliquesced. So if you put it out into the night air, it attracts the dew. And you have to catch them again before the sun rises, or else they vanish and you lose your labor. So these are some pictures of Robert. I was making 16mm films of him, silent films. I can show you if you're interested. You can see him prospecting between the elements as the alchemist could be understood to be, which is, in the heart of things. The door to the laboratory, a nice golden sheen. There's a process called spagyric anatomy where you can take a plant and you distill it dry, and by the regiments of fire, you expose each of the layers of its personality. So first you have, first comes over the flood water, then comes a white fume associated with mercury, then a yellow oil, then a red oil, and perhaps a little black oil. And in the beginning of the distilling, you have the cold, the calx, the terra damnata, the dead head. And so when you make a spagyric, also, it's thought that the plant or whatever material one is working on undergoes a kind of death and a rebirth. And this is evidenceable in part through its chemistry, which is that if you take in a plant the essential oil, the sulfur, you get an alcohol from it, the mercury, and you burn the body and run water through this, you get the salts. When you put these three together, the mercury, the alcohol is neutral pH, the essential oil is acidic, as it should be, should our personality not have a little bite, and the salts are alkali. And so what happens is that the salts and the essential oils, they have all these tiny wettings. And so it's as if your true character could finally meet your bones, and that they may be wed in new combinations. And it also, I should say, when you ingest this, the body reads it as if it's already digested, they claim, because the body, acidic, makes acid salts itself, so it may survive. Okay, here we have some Robert action. He's also does something called guerrilla alchemy, which is more fun. So you can see he just, I think it's a cedar oil we're distilling here. Harvesting stones on the beach, the oil of egg in process, tiny Robert, calcination, burning to get the salts. Now we'll jump a little bit into this crazy way of the beautiful snail shell of the books. Okay, so some history of things, but I won't say everything. But one of our first alchemists, Zosimos of Panopolis, 300 AD, has a very beautiful series of dreams, kind of alchemical vision involving, I believe, a man made of brass who sacrifices tiny bodies in a bowl. And there's a white temple with a door which is very small and very hard to find, around which a dragon sleeps. He says to his teacher was Maria Prophetessa, purportedly, his student Theosiphian. I'm a little nervous. She also a woman, which is good. There's a quote, "With what is written and relate to you with the pictures made for you, you now possess what it is you need that you might know, and this should be enough." What should we say? Yes, there's a tradition of emblem books, early printing. Notably, I discovered just this morning, Gutenberg, 1440. The metal involved in the production, I think, of the letters is a mixture of lead, tin, and antimony. So those who know understand. More good stuff. We can come back. Very beautiful project. Okay, so Michael Maier, as you should know if you don't, spent some time in Prague, an interesting character, in Rudolph's court, which, as a small aside, I discovered also that when Rudolph died, they found in his possessions a flask of a special tincture, which was said to be very gray and very heavy. And it was kept in a special silver canister with a red velvet around it. And that one of his servants stole it. And he was found out, and it's reported that he hung himself in the prison. But if you know some Taoist techniques, it is possible to fake one's own death with a bit of bamboo. So, Adelinta Pugin's one of the great and beautiful golds that is produced by the alchemical tradition is an envelope book, 1617, and it's 50 myths, which are interpreted recipes, accompanied by each has a fugue, a musical fugue, for 3 voices. And this corresponds to the myth of Atalanta, as you might find it in Ovid. So here you see them. So Atalanta and Hippomenes and the golden apples. So the story goes that Atalanta, who I believe was a princess of Arcadia, her father wanted her to marry, but she wanted to live in the forest and be of Artemis or Diana. And she conceived a deal that if any man could beat her in a foot race, she would marry him, but if not, they would be slain with a spear perhaps, or perhaps the loss of the head, hard to say. And Atalanta was very fast. So this is, the story goes that Hippomenes, he received apples from Venus. I do not know in what manner he achieved this, but that's an important question. And you'll see also here the Garden of the Hesperides, the Orchard of the Hesperides, where the golden apples grow, guarded by 3 nymphs of the evening, overlooked by Atlas, and a great dragon, Ladon, stands there. And here, Heracles, in one of his labors, he has to procure this. And Robert Graves very mysteriously proposes that the dragon he meets is his own ghost, his own prophetic ghost. But as they race, he drops 3 golden apples at different moments, and they're too beautiful. So she stops. And by the end, she likes him as well, and so they hook up. And they don't give proper thanks to the gods, and they're transformed into lions. And this is only natural. And they said that these lions pull the chariot of Cybele, I believe, who's the goddess of the earth. And so one interpretation is that it is Sulfur and Mercury in their chase, but my personal perspective also is that she is perhaps Natura. She is the shifting edge of nature, and he is the artifacts, the alchemist, in pursuit. And like Proteus in the Odyssey, where you see that in that story, there's an old man of the sea, an old gray man of the sea, and the task is that if you can catch him, a shapeshifter, and hold him as he changes through a rose bush, a flame, an involute river, perhaps a tiny snail, maybe a grape. If you can hold on to him long enough, he will relent and he will give you access to the secrets, as he is the sea. And so similarly, the alchemist pursuing the shifting edge of nature, if you could just catch up with its pace, if you could apprehend what is happening in the finest of its details, perhaps you would have these similar access. And so in the fugues of the piece, there are 3 voices. One is Atalanta, one is Hippomenes, and one, the Cantus Firmus, is the golden apple, which sings. Good. This is the artist of the book, Matthias Marian, the elder. He created many of the great images in the printed books of alchemy, and no one ever talks about him. But he is very much responsible for the whole generations of things. And let's see, his daughter also is a great illustrator, and she's an insectologist, an entomologist. So here she is, right? And some good spiders of hers, which who could not respect a spider like this? Let's see, what should I say? Well, spiders are an important matter, but I learned, for example, recently that some spiders can fly great distances using their silk, which is slightly electrically charged, ballooning. So, towards this idea of learning how to read the book of the world to teach oneself, there's an idea from Goethe, and it's subsequently in Steiner, which I understand it as translated as exact percipient fancy or exact imaginative fancy. And this is a proposition that you would use the imagination in the scientific method. And that if you can study something and think with something with enough subtlety, the actual life of the thing might explore itself through the medium of your imagination. So here we have the idea of the plant unfurling itself in the mind of the person considering the plant. And this is the I think. Okay, another good book quote from The Alchemist. Ora, lege, relege, labora, e advents. Pray, read again, labor, and discover. From the Mute book, which is a book with no words, they tell us, but we read it nevertheless. Okay, I don't know what's here. This is one of the emblems from Atalanta, which I think is most profound and very useful. So here you see a locked door to the rose garden of the philosophers. And here you have a seeker, and there's an audience. So as I remember the epigraph, it's to be a man without a key is to be like a person without feet. And so as I understand this is the garden of your life. And in this garden, if you're someone that makes things, perhaps you have you have the plants of your teachers, of your aspirations, of your sadnesses, of your beautiful meals, of your lost loves, of your works. And the question is how to enter the garden. The gods are also curious, and the muses, perhaps, who are also the metals, who are alive. Here we have 3, perhaps for the sulfur, salt, mercury, and there are 4 pieces of wood, perhaps for the 4 elements, and the great notable litany of locks. But as you see, it appears that there's a stream coming from beneath the doorway. A mercurial passage, and perhaps your feet are simply concealed. Okay, this is from the emblem. This is my translation, which is about the key, so I'll read it to you, which is in one of these books, where it's set in a prison of habits, a goblin prison. The witch in the story, the bearded witch who's on a boat, raising some orphans. Lapis exilis, they say, in the Rosarium, the stone of the philosophers is an orphan. She has to rescue someone from a prison of habits. The key, however, is something very insignificant, of little value, and is also called the stone, and the root of rose, without which no seed can sprout. No precious mineral may form, no rose coming into bloom unfold its diminutive leaves. But if you ask me where the key is found, I would answer with the words of the oracle, that you must look in the place where Orestes lost his bones, namely where the winds gather, garnering, between the accidental fellings of men, the true nature of reflection, and the ruins of the anthropos be found. Yeah, you can see the whole page. So one principle I want to add to our list of, as we teach ourselves how to read, a very difficult matter. I myself had a lot of trouble learning how to read as a child. I went to a Waldorf school, as might be evident. And in fact, there was a good story, which is my father was with me trying to get me to read. And the first word I ever read was bat. And just this matter, how to link the letters. I could understand a single sound as you might understand a body, but how is the body linked to the air? How do you bridge the letters? And I read bat, and I thought that was enough. Perfect. But my father, he pressured me to keep going, and the next word I read was man. And this is the whole of the trouble. Could have just stayed as bat. Okay, so there's an idea of the philosophical fire, and this is, as I understand it, and will claim it, is a quality of attention that incubates things, our philosophical egg. It's a fire that makes things move and unfold their forms. So here's a quote from a Chinese book. The hen can hatch her eggs because her collected heart is always listening. This is an important magic. Though the energy of heat warms the shells, it alone cannot penetrate into the interior. Therefore, she conducts this energy by listening with a bent ear. Maintain this even when leaving your philosophic egg, and the spirit will be uninterrupted, the art will grow. Thereby day and night cannot work their charlatanry. Soon the spirit awakens into life, because the first heart has died. To kill the heart does not mean to let it wither away, desiccate and dry, but rather to become undivided and gathered into one. And there's a good story from Japan that on the last day of the year, foxes would gather in Edo, in Tokyo, and they would gather at a certain temple, and if you spied on them, as the farmers would do, they would tip back their heads and breathe little fires. And if you could just interpret what it meant, you would know the fate of the coming year and the harvest. So this is another great emblem. Here you have the wolf and the king. And I'll tell you a secret, which is this is a recipe for the philosopher's stone. Here you have gold, which is like a dead king they propose. It was believed since the time of Aristotle that the metals have an organic life cycle in the earth, and they evolve with different exhalations: dry, wet, cold, and warm. I've forgotten the last one. But as they evolve in their cycle, they were eventually all purportedly going towards more mature and more refined forms, the last of which being gold. But that gold was perfect, but exhausted, like a dead king. And so it was the alchemist's work to put new life that it can go one more step, which is the stone of the philosophers. And so one method proposed here is that it means also that you are like a dead king, the emperor of one's head, and that you must allow yourself to be eaten by a great wolf, perhaps the wolf of your grief. You know, there are a great variety of wolves in one's lives, most of them very nice. After it is eaten, cast the wolf in the fire, and the king emerges, more resplendent. Notice this beautiful cape, and perhaps leaves on the boat. This I was trying to understand if this is maybe a Charles Bridge, but probably it's not. Oh, and I'll tell you also, I was walking there on the bridge the other night, and I saw that there was a very cool spider, large spider, below the bridge in the light. And I started to wonder if it might not be Rudolph himself, or Michael Maier, I don't know, and that we should offer him 3 golden flies. Okay, so another idea. So we have our fire, we have our exact percipient fancy to imagine in the scientific method. Another idea is about the microcosm. So there's a sense from Buddhist philosophy that each life, I'll tell you the model. There was an image of the cosmos as a vast web or network or spider's web, threads. At each point of the crossing of the lines is a jewel, which is the life. And each life reflects all of the other lives inside of itself, all the other jewels, but is uniquely shaped. And so to take this methodology towards the particulars of the world, that if you could open up any individual life, as it requires a whole cosmos to make even an old shoe or the top of a water bottle, as above, so below, by dissolving and opening its strands, you could use it as a kind of Bible, as a way of asking the world questions. This is resonant, I think, with the omphalos in Delphi, which is this great, is it not here? We lost it. Here, yeah. This is this great stone that you can see at the oracle. This reminds me of the chain of Indra's web, said to be, the stone was swallowed in place of the infant Zeus by Kronos, old time. And so we can be born. This matter of the stone, we see again. Yes, okay, we can go. This one is good too. Just that this is the philosopher following after nature, after her light. So, methodology. Ripley scroll, an English project. Ripley's wheel, it was thought that each of these corresponds to a planet. These are in the flask, as you can see. And this book is the book of the earth. And they're connected by chains, as like the chains in being, sympathies to the Renaissance magic. And our matter, prima materia, toad. More issues of chains. Microcosm, macrocosm, sequence of birds. There's a system of colors as well. Maybe we won't get there today because I'm trying to do too much. That's the good way. This is an issue about toad. When busy at my book, I was upon a certain night. This vision expressed itself upon my dimmest sight. A toad full ruddy I saw, did drink the juice of grapes so fast till overcharged with broth, his bowels all to brass. He continues, a poisonous toad put in the flask. Busy, related to the heat. There was an idea also in the Popol Vuh, which is the Mayan epic, that a book could be a seeing instrument. Here you see the law is a way of asking the whole world. Toad. Maier had a flask, a seal mission, and you see there's a chaining of the toad and the eagle. Fixing the volatile. Such a life. Chinese issue. Toad again. So there was a great Taoist saint, Liu Haichan, who was reported he had a three-legged toad that was a friend of his, and he would hold it in his hand, and he could travel anywhere he wished in an instant. But it was reported the toad was not accustomed to this lifestyle, and so it would escape into wells, and you have to have a string of coins, and you can lure the toad back. So you see him traveling on the water. So the question is about how to find your toad. Which there's another conception as well, that the toad is the heaviness of the body, is the difficult corpus that we carry, but that it might be a secret heaven if you know how to dance. Okay, I'm going to do a bunch of stuff really fast because I'm running I'm already too far. The eye as a reaction vessel. Colors. The alchemists also have a whole sequence of colors. Maybe I'll do this and then I'll tell one legend and then I'll shut up. Okay. The phases of the alchemical work have characteristic colors associated here with birds occurring in the flask, the material of your page, how to learn to read. The blackening, the whitening, the yellowing, the red. Between the black and the white, this is a kind of philosophical putrefaction to undergo the fermentation, to enter one's toadliness. You'll forgive my madness. The washing of the crow. Between the black and the white. Between those phases is purported something very beautiful, the peacock's tail. An iridescence appears, not unlike the Star of Bethlehem. Keep going. This is a book I have in my house. Just an idea. I had an alchemical mystical experience, which I'll tell you privately, I guess, because I don't have any time. That I was making a book and set in this old inn in upstate New York on the river, and the book started coming true, taking the house as an alchemical vessel, and nature obliges. Okay, carrying the sun. I am the bird of Hermes who eats his wings. I'm going too fast, but that's just what it is. Here you see the sequence of colors. And the macrocosmic image. All right. I'll jump to the end and I'll give you some contemporary examples. First of all, also look at this. This is Steve Kalick, and this is from Splendor, but I thought this likeness is really kind of remarkable. So you see, this is my point as well, that by considering the particular of the world and imagining with it, they might actually unfold and you can meet. That we can talk to the world through imagining with the world. Okay. Green line, very classic, very important. This is the book that I made that started coming true. I'll show you in person. I have a copy here. The Old Inn, Timbal, Duckstone. And I'll show you a million images really quickly so that you get wise. Okay, we must be close. Alchemical books. I took this lecture very seriously, as you can see. The King in the Bath, to break down the emperor of one's head. Perhaps an encoded recipe for operagia. This is a depletion gilding technique. The final emblem of Atalanta Fugiens, which I'll pause here for a second. I'll say like 3 more things and I'll shut up. What an image of consummacy. That one is like the staff of the philosophers with the dragon wrapped around between the air and the grave. Nice. R3 in the hot air balloon. The Tria Prima. Contemporary examples. I think this is very good. Okay, so it was discovered recently, they did a study in Alaska on chin-strap penguins, that they have a remarkable sleeping schedule. They were observed for 10 days, and no time did they sleep for more than 34 seconds, mostly 4 seconds, and they sleep 11 hours a day. So this sense of incubating your egg, your philosophical egg, alternating so rapidly between sleep and wakefulness. Another good example, the proof of electricity and the animal nervous system was done by this man, Harold Saxon Burr, I believe, using a salamander embryo, connecting it galvanically. And so the salamander in the fire proved at last rocks, feldspar, a stone, nucleates clouds, philosophical stone. Humbling earwax? Yeah, this seems good. Okay, I'll end with this because I love it. Alchemy is obsessed with this idea of the red stone and the white stone. Perhaps I'm going to propose now, for fun, the tomato and the potato. The first tomato that came from the New World to Europe is known as the Pimpinella folium, and they believe them to be poisonous, as so much is, until man bravely ate a tomato in a town square. I think maybe we'll leave it there. Any questions if you want? Thanks for bearing with me.
Thank you very much. We've got time for like 2 or 3 questions, quickly, if you want.
Thank you. I would ask you, considering the Chinese alchemical text, the Secret of the Golden Flower, what kind of translation or whose translation do you use? The ones?
Yes, I like the one that Carl Jung was looking at, which I think is the early one. I don't know if it's the most correct, but I think it's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to suggest you the translation of Thomas Clary.
Okay.
Because this translation is actually complete. Like it translates the whole work, which the version at which Jung looks at doesn't, and it's more correct.
Oh, that's very cool.
I think you will find it fascinating.
Thank you.
Okay, another question? Not right now. Okay, in that case, thank you. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, and see you here in 8 minutes. Is 8 minutes enough? Okay, so 4:35 we will continue with another lecture. Thank you again, David.